Which conspiracy theory is so believable that it might be true? That your phone's microphone is constantly hot and it's listening for keywords to target advertising. That your phone's microphone is constantly hot and it's listening for keywords to target advertising. Most glaring instance where this happened to me was when I walked into a colleague's office. He had just gotten a standing desk, but one that goes on top of his existing desk rather than a standalone, pun, model. That's important to note. I said, nice standing desk, when did you get that? Thanks, just today, he replied. That was literally all that was said about the desk. We talked about work related stuff, and as I walked out and checked my phone, there was an ad on Facebook for that exact model of standing desk. I have never owned one, wanted one, or googled one before, yet there it was on my feed. Tinfoil hat be damned, they listen in. I've had this happen to me twice in the last month. Things I talked about with my daughter, one being hard-boiled eggs, showed up on my feed hours later. There it was, an ad for a hard-boiled egg cooker. Never googled anything about hard-boiled eggs. Weird F. I can't remember the first one. When I said something to my daughter about it after the first time, she called me crazy. When I showed her the egg thing, she said, well damn, you might be right. My conspiracy theory. Facebook purposely attempts to ruin people's relationships because the drama gets more views and more views sell more ads. Several years ago they introduced a feature so that your comments on other pages would show up in your friends' feeds. So if you're secretly an atheist and you comment on some atheist page, it shows up in your devout Southern Baptist Grandma Muriel's timeline. Even though it's a conversation that has nothing to do with her and there's no reason for it to be. As a result, Facebook outs you to your family, and grandma is typing away at all the evil satanists trying to corrupt her grandson. And if you comment on a public post, it's unavoidable. You used to be able to control who could see your comments even on public posts by other pages, but at the same time Facebook introduced their tattletale feature, they took that ability away. Now if they were to stumble across the same page they'd be able to see your comment, but after that change, Facebook started pointing everybody you know directly to it. Not to mention, the privacy settings are difficult to find, difficult to understand, and with each passing year gives you less and less control over who sees what. By forcibly combining everybody's social circles, Facebook is trying to generate conflict. They want to generate conflicts because the conflict happens on Facebook, which means people logging onto Facebook more often and seeing more ads. They're essentially an internet tabloid, except instead of showcasing the personal drama of celebrities for clicks and sales, they are doing it to you instead. Ever notice how the vast majority of family drama, relationship fights, etc. these days happens on Facebook? That's by design. Facebook is literally destroying the social fabric to make a buck, consuming relationship stability like it's an oil refinery consuming crude. The ballistic missile threat that was sent to Hawaiian cell phones saying, "Seek shelter, this is not a drill," that was later deemed a mistake, was a real missile that was intercepted before impact. The reason Disney came out with a movie called Frozen was so that when you googled Disney Frozen you would get information about the movie and not websites talking about Walt Disney's body being frozen. And don't forget about Disney on Ice too. Everyone knows Disney on Ice was created to offset the Google searches curious about going to Disneyland while high on meth. Michael Jordan's first retirement was actually a suspension by the NBA because of his gambling. It was to avoid a suspension. Subtle difference. Avoid a public suspension. I mean, if the league gives you the option to take a suspension or take a few years off, it's still technically the league suspending you. Goes deeper, take a few years off to play baseball for the same owner who owned the Bulls. Reinsdorf made just as much money having him in baseball. The real reason Apple removed the headphone jack was to try to remove Square Pay systems as a competitor for Apple Pay. Well, I'll be damned. Snapchat worked with the FBI to popularize and secretly test and improve face recognition technology. We went from whoa, this is like magic to this is totally normal in a few years, and there's no way that the technology isn't being by law enforcement. Have you read the terms and agreements of Snapchat? It's not that secret that most social media is selling your information, including the one we're using right now. Lotteries are actually traps for time travelers. The development of the F-35 fighter jet is so over budget so the military can fund other top secret projects without making a new line item on the budget. It's the only conspiracy theory I believe. Mattress firms aren't only holding mattresses, buddy. After reading about this on Reddit, I got to thinking. Once I needed a new bed I decided to check it out. I went in and was approached by two salesmen. They had this $1,499 mattress that I really liked. The sales guy saw the twinkle in my eye and knew that I must have this mattress. I told him I liked it but I needed something more budget friendly. I was a broke ass at the time. He then said, well, we can do this one here on the floor for $950. I told him to be honest I only have $400 to spare. He says hold on a minute while I make a call. Then comes out and says okay, we can do $400. Just come back in an hour while we prep it. I left, came back and they even helped me lift it up to my truck. Honestly the best mattress I've ever owned. I get compliments all the time. One of my favorites is that the government was behind Throwback Thursday in order to get us to digitize and upload pictures that they would not have had access to in order to improve age progression facial recognition algorithms. I don't know about TBT but the 10-year challenge provided anyone who wanted to grab it a massive amount of training material for a face recognition ID. Long John Silver's is some kind of money laundering scheme on the basis that they have been open for as long as I can remember, but I have also literally never seen a busy Long John's. Toxic delusion that I ironically entertain, perhaps? You clearly didn't grow up in a white trash family. LJS is a poor man's Red Lobster. We would eat fast food almost every night when I was growing up, and maybe once a month get LJS. It was a treat. The oil and coal industries invested heavily in killing off nuclear power as an attractive alternative. These days we have reactor designs many times safer than other methods of generating power, and the waste issue is something that could be fixed with sufficient investment. Not even a matter of these days. Even taking into account disasters like Chernobyl, estimated around 4,000 premature deaths, and Fukushima. 600. Nuclear is incredibly safe compared to coal's 5,000 accidents per year. Nuclear kills 90 people per petawatt hour generated, whereas coal kills 100.000 people per petawatt hour, mainly because of lung problems worldwide. Even if we don't take into account the climate change contribution, most of those deaths are easily avoidable if we switch to nuclear. Edit. Here is the source of the deaths per energy unit claim. It's Forbes. Not the best, but it's what I found with a quick Google search. Also edit. A lot of people are telling me that Fukushima had 0 radiation related deaths, and that the numbers for Chernobyl are also debatable, but most people here claim the ones I posted as too high. I intentionally chose some of the highest estimates I found when googling just to be on the safe side of supporting nuclear energy, so that this comment couldn't be disregarded just by saying you estimated too few kills. Nuclear kills so many more. Even when choosing some of the highest numbers, those numbers pale against the deaths caused by fossil fuels. Bob Vance was just trying to plug his business to the cameras every time he introduced himself. Kevin played dumb and was actually embezzling and or laundering money. When they find out the one guy from Stanford was arrested for insider trading, Kevin even says that sounds exactly like what I do every day. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory at this point, but a lot of people still don't acknowledge that your internet searches and social media profiles are absolutely being used as training models by major IT companies. I was a drunk college student and had access to them to run AI training. If you still think you're off the grid, you're an idiot. Being frank, it's not a big deal if you don't have dark shit to hide. Those people are too busy building the new technological world to give a shit that you look at midget porn. But don't delude yourself to think people don't have access to anything you do on the internet. And to further that point, privacy in public is non-existent. When you're in public, in a city you're on camera something like every 6 minutes, more in denser areas. So don't go freaking out when someone takes your picture or films you acting like an idiot. If you have your cell phone with you, you're being tracked. How else does Google give you specific traffic congestion details in real time, all over the world? Thanks for making it to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day and see you next time.